Sup? It's the True Floater here, and I'm doing a review on G.I. Joe Classified Crimson Guard. If you want to see it, here's the package. You got the side, Crimson Guard. There's not really much to the package for real, but here we go. We got Crimson Guard here. Alright, let's talk about the paint. The paint overall across the whole figure is pretty clean. There's not many red splotches. The silver stays in the details, especially on the braces, on the arm, the chest. Even the smaller details is a shiny silver. And I'm like that they went, instead of like giving us a dull silver in some parts, they went ahead and tried to make certain things look like it's metal on there, which it does. It looks like that's metal right there when it's not. The paint is overall is just really clean, especially when you get down to even the boots and the backpack itself. There's no problems, as again G.I. Joe Classified doesn't really screw up in that department. The sculpt, on the other hand, too, is also pretty good. The sculpt, I don't know if this is a new sculpt or a reused sculpt. I want to say it may be a reused sculpt, but I don't think so. I really like it. It's one of my more favorite army builders to get just because of the sculpt alone. I like ninjas, I like standard soldiers, but there's some sort of elegance to this design that lets you know he's definitely like a higher boss. He's more a hired gun for sure. Like, you gotta worry about this army builder, this soldier in the field way more than the others. And you can tell by what the stuff he comes with the sword, the gun, the pistol. Granted, most G.I. Joe Classified figures come with that, but his sword is different. Like, he doesn't come with just a knife. He has that little pirate type sword. I really just like the sculpt. And I like one thing, that this may be a weird detail, but I really fancy the fact that the helmet stays on and it looks good. I don't like when for some figures where you have to take off the helmet or put it back on, mainly because it never looks right when you put it on. At least that's for me. That maybe is a weird nitpick, but I guess it's, I don't know. I don't know if I'm putting on the helmet too tight or not tight enough. And that's really only for like one figure I've had that problem. So the fact that you don't have to worry about that, he has just a standard helmet that's part of the sculpt, I'm fine with it. I'm very much fine with it, but overall the figure has a very beautiful and well done sculpt. Now let's get into the articulation of the figure. It has a swivel in the bicep. Same on this side, has a swivel in the thigh. Very nice. Has an ab crunch. Goes far that back, goes forward. It also has the little ball joint in the waist, so you can get a bit more rotation, articulation out of there. Has articulation in the neck, so I think that's what also a ball joint in the neck that it has. The head looks up this far, looks down this far. That's the only problem with more later G.I. Joe figures. They don't seem to look down or up that far, and it may be a problem again with the collar, which, you know, the design got in the way of that. But I still feel like they could have maybe raised the neck up a bit more. Yeah, they could have raised the neck up a little bit more just to get a bit more articulation in the head. But if you move that neck, you can get more out of it. Though backwards, again, the collar gets in the way. That's where they should have raised the neck. So you can't really get that much out right there. But double jointed elbows, double jointed knees. Rocker in the foot, swivel in the boot. It also has a drop leg function, so you see that, so you can bring the leg up that far down, go sideways this far. Yeah, there you. I think I got all the. Oh yeah. The wrist, since it doesn't come with any other hands, just these sets of hands, it goes up and down, which is very nice to have for a sword. You know, he does carry a sword. Only problem with this figure is that, unlike you know, other figures, for example, like Power Rangers Lightning Collection, even certain Marvel Legends, the hand could go, usually the hand goes very far up or very far down. It doesn't really go up or down that much. So even when you put the sword in there, there's not much you can really do. The articulation for the hand was just kind of done badly. You can probably fix that by just going into the hand and maybe, I don't know, cutting out a little plastic. That's risky because it's a smaller peg, smaller joint. So I wouldn't really mess with it. And there's a few QC issues with this G.I. Joe classified figure. Granted, I got off lucky in my opinion. A lot of people had their had said they had their arm popping off at the bicep joint, and trust me, I believe it. Like the Zarana figure I have, yeah, that joint was popping off at the arm. Well, actually, I don't know. It hasn't popped off for me, but I probably just haven't, you know, played to fit it, you know, just enough to really figure that out. But I imagine if I put a little pressure, it may pop off. But for this guy, I've been fine with it. It's been pretty much, for the most part, good, you know. Okay, well, I was wrong. I was wrong. But again, I had to put a lot of pressure for that to for that to happen. So as long no one puts that much pressure on the bicep joint anyway. But for the most part, it's pretty much fine. Same on this guy too. Pretty much fine. The QC issues I really want to talk about was the fact that on the drop leg function, if you can see it, you may not be able to see it. There's a bit of a plastic string, like the plastic's kind of turning white over here. The more I use this joint, it's a little ugly. I mean, I can look over for the most part, but you know, that is definitely not a cool thing to see. That the plastic's kind of straining right there. And another problem is, this is probably not the least worst problem to worry about, but this knee joint's very tight. I can bend it right there, but I can't bend the top of it. The knee joint's kind of stuck right there. I probably just need to heat it up, and if I heat it up, it'll probably be okay. But you know, that's the really real problem. No, not the real. That was the real problem. But this is the other problem, QC issue, that would, I guess, be more important for others to see. That it was just stuck. I imagine that when I heat it up, it'll be fine, but yeah. Alright, let's look at the scale of these figures. You know, there it is by itself. Now let's get it next to another fellow G.I. Joe classified figure. Okay, roughly pretty much the same height. And the G.I. Joe soldier right here is the infantry soldier's a little smaller, I would say, than the average soldier. I don't know, maybe around the average height. And let's get next to a slightly bigger guy. Let's be diverse with it. A Star Wars Black Series figure. Okay, it's a little short. I would say a hair shorter than that guy. I won't say it was bigger. It may have been like more just thicker. You know, let's get him in the middle of things. If y'all have any of these figures, that may give you a good idea. It's not like especially tall figure. It's like an average size figure right there. So yeah, there's the scale. Though, if I had to be honest, if I had to give my, you know, my final thoughts on this figure, it's definitely not perfect. And the main thing that keeps it from being perfect is a few problems in the design of the figure that gets in the way, and a few QC issues that gets in the way. It could have been, you know, one of my favorite G.I. Joe classified figures ever. I was looking forward for this figure for quite a long time. As soon as I saw the design, saw the red on this figure, I knew this would be when I would like red and black's one of my favorite colors. So when I see a nice share of red and black in a figure, already it's gonna be up there for me. But the design, the collar that gets in the way of the head and neck movement, you know, that kind of hurts in a lot of ways of posing it around, because you need to be able to move the head in any way, in any fashion or any pose, and now, you know, it just kind of limits it. the QC issues with the straining plastic on the, under the hips, near the hips where you drop the leg. That's just ugly to look at. For most times you won't see it, but when you do, it just really ruins the mood. The QC issue with the knee, with it being stuck as soon as I got out the box, that's never a desirable thing to ever have. And even and it's even worse for other people. Some people have their arms popping off. I mean, you saw in the review, it popped off for me as well, but you know, I had to put a decent amount of pressure on it. Granted, for most figures like Marvel Legends and Power Rangers, even when you put a lot of pressure on it, that thing's not coming off, but it came off for him. So, you know, I'm not really worried. I don't think I need to do any type of mod to fix it, because again, I had to put a little bit of pressure to take it off. But you know, there's little things throughout this figure, kind of like this, you know, this Scorpion figure, that just gets in the way of it being a perfect figure. And it's close. It's close. Overall, you know, again, with if there's one good thing I would say about this figure, yeah, the good thing is you can store all the accessories, you know, on this guy's back, or just, you know, around this figure in his holsters or anything. It doesn't get in the way. If there's one little complaint, it's an important complaint, because it shows where Hasbro maybe really trying to cheap out. But these newer G.I. Joe figures, you haven't been able to store everything on their backpack or in their holsters. You have to get at least 1 or 2 guns in a hand in order to keep everything on that figure. You know, no one likes putting the accessories away, because most 6 times out of 10 you're gonna lose it. And that may be too low of a number, but you're gonna lose some of those accessories, or you may never see them again. So it's always been nice to be able to store everything, you know, on the figure for the most part. And the fact that lately they've been not doing that they've been kind of being cheap with it and not be able to store everything on the figure, you may have to put some accessories away, is you know, kind of annoying. It's kind of annoying, because that it may show a sign that the G.I. Joe Classified line is kind of going down in quality. I mean, it's hard to argue it. You know, the QC issues that have been popping up randomly have definitely hurt. I doubt these QC issues will be around for any longer. I imagine, you know, they'll be back to their normal selves maybe by the next wave of figures we get. But I like that with this newer figure, you can't store the sword, the gun on his backpack. You know, you don't have to worry about that. But if I have to give my final thoughts with the overall figure, you know, it looks good. The mold looks great for the most part. The accessories are great, it's there. The QC issue does hurt it. I give it an 8 out of 10. It's an 8 out of 10 for me. I'm still, for the most part, happy that I got the figure. I think I bought it for maybe roughly, it was at my comic book store. Y'all probably saw a little short like that, but it was at my comic book store for maybe $25, which sounds about right. Almost every Hasbro Marvel Legend figure is $25. G.I. Joe Classified probably gave me the most out of it, you know, making that price value worth it. It's still kind of not worth it, but you know, you feel a little better. But yeah, that would be it. So yeah.